Hello, and welcome to a new episode of Convert on Shopify. My name is Pancho Mendiola, and I have a very good news for you. Today is the first episode that we have a guest, and not any guest. We have a very special guest. But before I tell you who it is, this is going to be from now on something that we're doing. So we're gonna jump in some topics, okay, about conversion rate optimization and A/B testing and all of that sort. Obviously, specializing in e-commerce with Shopify. But from now on, when we want to go really deep into a topic with examples, with use cases, or with more like in-depth information, we are going to bring guests that they are all super knowledgeable. They have years of experience, and today is no exception. Today, for our very first episode, we are bringing in Dennis. So Dennis, I've known him for more than 10 years now. We're good friends, and it's a pleasure for me to now be working with him with this podcast. So Dennis is the founder of Convert.com, which is the host of this podcast. It's an A/B testing tool or a conversion rate optimization tool. And Dennis, let me tell you, he's been around. He's been around for a lot of years in this industry. He was one of the first ones with who started developing this technology. I mean, aside or the big guys, the Googles from the world. But Dennis, believe me, he's very knowledgeable. You're gonna tell not only in this episode, but we're gonna have him for a couple more in the future, in the near future. So in this first one, we discussed about a little bit about his background, why he started doing A/B testing, how he did end up with a software as a service company like Convert in a very like highly complex world and ecosystem, which is conversion rate optimization. But we're also going to talk about what is A/B testing, and what made him go into that route. What did he see 10 years ago, and what he sees 10 years after today, and obviously where he thinks things are going. So you're going to have a travel in time in how A/B testing and conversion rate optimization has evolved and how we think it's going to continue to evolve. So, I mean, I don't want to spoil you anymore. Let's get into the episode. Hey man, well again, thanks a lot for your time. And as you know, in this interview, we want to get to know a little bit more about you and how it all started. So first of all, welcome, and tell us a little bit about your background. Where are you from? How you ended up in Mexico with a tech company and now in Spain?
Yeah. Well, I'm Dutch. I'm from the Netherlands, and around 30, I ran a software as a service company. Oh no, not the software as a service company. It was more a lead generation company at
Okay.
that time. So I had like 200 websites where we did lead generation for ERP software, e-commerce software, CRM, and there were a couple of hundred sites, all different domains, and we focused on content and ranking. And yeah, that was, I think, the second business. The first one actually made some money. And with that one, uh, yeah, there was a moment where we had, I think, $3,000 or something coming in on a monthly base. And my wife is like, okay, that would be great to kind of enjoy this remote kind of setup from Mexico. I want to go back. So at that time, I was married to a Mexican, and yeah, she wanted to go back to Mexico, and we basically left Holland and moved to Monterrey, Mexico.
All right. All right. Where I'm from. Well, not born,
Exactly.
but where I'm at
We
actually.
exactly. We didn't meet each other there at that time, but
Yeah.
yeah, Monterrey is the place where I landed for a couple of years.
So I mean, apparently Convert wasn't then your first endeavor. Did it evolve into that, or you like switch drastically, or how did it all come about?
Okay, so the first company I had right before I moved to Mexico was called Existive. That was like a lead generation for assistive technology for people with disabilities. So there was like a product database, and people could request that product and it would get sent to a supplier. So there was some lead generation happening already. That didn't work out. Very noble cause, but not very commercial. And the second company was Orange Republic. That was a lead gen site. And with that, I moved to Mexico. So with my 2-year-old, my ex at that time, and we basically started it. And as soon as we moved, we sold our house in May 2008. I landed more or less in Monterrey at August 2008, and the world kind of crashed at that moment. The real estate bubble bursted in the US and took many casualties along the world with it, and so my leads dried up. Bad time. So basically, I lost half the traffic between May and August. That's like the right moment where he's like, yeah, we have enough income. Let's switch to countries and let's sell our house. And at that moment, you're like, ouch, that's 50% less. I actually needed that $3,000 income.
Okay.
So half the traffic. And the only thing I could think of is like, double the sales with like I need to kind of double with the traffic. I have to be able to get like it was very simplistic. I didn't even know the name for that. That was conversion optimization and things like I have no idea. And I had a co-founder. No, I didn't have a co-founder at that time. Now my co-founder, I had a developer, just of what now probably is Upwork. There was different versions before that. I think it was Scriptlance was the predecessor of Upwork, and that's where I found him. He was beginning to code up a WordPress plugin, and eventually 2 years later, he had kind of the keys to every server. Kind of like from a simple plugin, it became almost like co-founder style. And he developed a rule-based personalization system for me. Basically, at that time we still got Google keywords, so you can get them. You can get an idea what people are looking for on Google, and I gave it to you. With that, plus the historical behavior of the same person stored in a cookie, we basically build a couple of thousand individual rules. So if you would look for CRM, but you came last week looking for ERP for Microsoft, at this moment the page would at least 30% of it would adjust itself, add the logo of Microsoft there, and we'll say like, hey, Microsoft has great systems for ERP and CRM, and then a Microsoft logo, and then people are like, oh, that's actually what I'm looking for. I'm like, I know, because I can store your keywords. And so all this rule-based personalizations happened, and that basically doubled revenue. And from that moment on, I left that year 2018 with double the revenue on what I was half. So basically, I ended up my year as expected before I emigrated. So that was the predecessor of Convert.
Man, I mean that was, I think, very like far ahead. Like right now, you can do some of that stuff, right? Like automatic personalization, but it's just like it's just coming about, right? Well, at least for software as a service types of tools. So you were very ahead of the game. So that turned into Convert, or what happened there?
Uh, what happened was I really enjoyed that lead gen business. I had a partner at 50 in that one. And I just read TechCrunch every day. It's like, I want to be a TechCrunch company. I want to be like that Silicon Valley company. It was very innocent. It was like, I want to be a Silicon Valley startup company. That's sounded like
Okay.
cool. And I was like, that's cool. So how do you do that? How do you become something that is worthy of investing? And so it was learning. And it wasn't until later that we actually completely split off that tool that we had into a different tool, which was called Reach, which was a predecessor of Convert. And I was in Mexico, and there were some startup events happening there. So Lean Startup, like 2010, started a little bit, and startup weekends, and those kind of events started. And I met some people that started a fund in Mexico in Monterrey, which was called Alta Ventures. They were hosting drinks, and these evenings for entrepreneurs to meet, and for them, of course, to kind of cherry pick some founders. They raised 70 million to deploy into 20 to 30 startups in Mexico, and they were situated in Monterrey. And I was like, that's great, because then I can sell my lead gen company, focus completely on the startup, and I just need to raise money, because that's what every startup does apparently. In that order, raise money as potential
Mhm.
signal of exit, like success.
Yeah.
Um, and so, very innocent, very silly. Now looking back, so we raised money. I practiced my pitch 200 times, and I went to pitch, and with a lot of preparation, but equal amount of luck, I landed around $400,000 on my first pitch, and I didn't have to look for any other investors. I just raised money, and they became shareholders with a lot of experience in this field by chance. And that became Convert. We bought the domain, Convert.com. We actually rented it first for the first 5 years to be lean on the funds, and then we bought it. And here we are. We didn't raise any additional money, and we are now like around 40 people and have a couple of $1 million in revenue with very large clients that are usually under NDA. So I can't talk about it, but some
Yeah.
really, really big ones. And yeah, on our website, you'll find some of the more familiar names.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what we're doing now.
Awesome. And why did you decide on like to focus on A/B testing? What took you into like into that specific route with all of the I know that you wanted to be this tech company, the Silicon Valley dream, right? But why of all of those possibilities you went for A/B testing?
We actually built a personalization tool first. So it was a personalization tool. It was funnel analytics. You can track, you can modify things as A/B testing. You had to write the code. We didn't have a visual editor in the very first year, which is now very common. You click on something and then change it. That wasn't even available in 2008, 2009. That you had to create that by yourself. And we discovered that of all the features we built, we were a typical startup error was build it all and they will come. And that's not really the way the world works. So we built this monster, not talking to anybody for a year and a half, and then launched, and we're like, a lot of silence
Yeah.
and nobody really using it. And then we went into customer interviews, which we do now a lot. But that was just new. Like doing customer interviews was evangelized in the whole lean startup movement. So build it with the
Yeah.
customers. We did that, and we discovered that only one feature of the whole thing that people love was the A/B testing tool. And we were always fan of a little tool called Dapper, eventually I think bought by Yahoo. And Dapper had this little tool that you could click on a page, and that would store the element that you clicked on, and you can then add it and make it an RSS feed. So
Okay.
it would it's like, hey, title, and then another, this is the URL, and then another title URL, and it will find all the titles and all the URLs, and you can make this page and scrape it in a way and turn any product page or any category page or any news feed into an RSS feed, even though it wasn't an RSS feed. And
Okay.
that was so cool. We really loved that idea. I was like, okay, that we would like for A/B testing, that you hover over something, you click on something, and instead of you writing the DOM structure that you need, we're getting really technical now, but you need
Yeah.
some structure to find a particular part to change it. And we made a visual editor. And there was another startup that kind of at the same time built that as well. And so the two of us were off the races.
Okay. Uh, so and then this was the very beginning, right? 10 years later, what is Convert today? So it all started with that. Well, first it was a monster, then you focus on one specific feature, and right now today, what is Convert, and I would also like to know where is it heading.
Um, Today it is a very specific A/B testing tool for people that usually have 500,000 to 1 million visitors at least. It solved the more
Per
complicated
month.
problems yeah, per month and it's mainly focused on the more enterprise kind of customers that have usually 2 or 3 people in the zero space. So they have usually an analyst, they have or an agency that help them. Um, that's where we landed, because we found out that even though we made A/B testing really easy, it actually is really hard, and the tool is just a small part of it. And so the idea that you can make an A/B test really easily doesn't automatically mean you have your first winners really easy. So that takes a long time, and it usually gets better if you do your analytics. I think you talked in one episode recently about diving into your analytics and benchmarking against others in general, and looking at where you want to be. So look at where your average order value is, where your conversions are compared to others, but also compared to yourself, compared to your own history, and how would it look if you would have a 20% more average order value? What would happen if you had 20% more conversions? What would happen to your balance sheet? If you're kind of familiar with that, then it's starting to get interesting. Then the most meaningful tests usually are the ones that take some development time. So usually you actually need a developer. For the Shopify community we're talking to, it usually means that you can do things with the visual editor, but mostly you have to clone your theme and then make the edits in the theme, and then do an A/B test like with 2 themes or 3 themes against each other.
Okay. So
For the
that's basically where Convert is today. But I know that
yeah,
you have big plans, and you're already working on them. So what's in the
shh,
yeah
we
yeah
can't tell. We can't tell. Just between you and me and a couple of people listening. Okay, please don't tell. By the way, there's this awesome book. What is it? The book, Hooked. For the people,
Hooked.
like,
Yeah,
if you're hooked, is
of
awesome. And
course.
there's
Yeah.
there's this restaurant example of the bar. I think more restaurant. Please don't tell. It's like, shh, you're in a secret club. Only you, Pancho, me, Dennis, and you on the other side of the podcast will know what's coming. So we want to build really a complete suite for Zero. So A/B testing is one part of it. We're getting really advanced in personalization nowadays with a lot of machine learning options and some new algorithms. I think we should also look a little bit of before what happens to an A/B test. An A/B test needs a good hypothesis, and I think you also talked about that in the past. If you don't document your hypothesis, it's hard to kind of learn anything. And we'd like you to learn and not only have winners, because there's a good learning from losers. So hypothesis building is important for us. Maybe something like a heat map and session recordings could come in the near future for us as well, because those are things that will allow you to get ideas for hypothesis. And we have a custom Shopify app already. I think it's the second generation already being launched. That's only for Convert customers and not something you find in the App Store. But we have the ambitions to maybe split off some of our products to a more simpler app, maybe something like a theme tester. I think right now we're one of the very few to do theme testing in the correct way, with 1 randomized version or 5 randomized versions, and it randomizes by each visitor. Most of the theme testers are like randomized by hour, or maybe tomorrow you have another theme, and then today. That's hard to defend from me. Like, to do it correct, and that's one some of the things that we're working on.
All right. So and why did you decide to start focusing a lot more in Shopify?
Well, Shopify one is a very interesting ecosystem, and we've seen, of course, with the pandemic, enormous growth in Shopify e-commerce customers. We think the potential of an e-commerce environment only has been, I think, penetrated. I think for at least in the US, like 20% of the people have bought something online the last 2 years, compared to pre-COVID, which was like 8%. So that's a double thanks to COVID. but that still means 80% of the businesses, people have not yet bought anything online. So the technology will eat the world in that sense. So there will be an enormous boost in that. And then we think Shopify has been positioned as one of the uh, very potential winners of that game. And so it is good to be in a Shopify space. We think there are apps missing in the store
Oh
to
yeah.
be able to do this well. And as a more enterprise focused company, we have so many things for customers. Our challenge is simplify that and offer one particular option so you can't go wrong and you don't have to focus on the statistics. We'd like to bring those things to the Shopify community, because I think certain tests everybody could do. You don't always need an agency. We could make that slightly easier and more statistically valid. So we just want you to not make the obvious mistakes. And you can make a lot of mistakes in A/B testing if you just pick a random app on the Shopify store, and that doesn't really do much in reality. So there's a lot of these apps. There's a lot about vanity, and even the simplest thing of measuring conversion rates on sessions, which Shopify does, is something
Yeah.
that, for example, for us, wouldn't be allowed to use as a metric for A/B testing. So that's not helping.
Yeah.
So we have some education to do. There's some new apps I think that need to help the Shopify community, and yeah, we're going there. So all of our customers, mostly as very large agencies that already help Shopify and Shopify Plus customers over $1 million dollars revenue annually. They usually help them already on Convert, because Convert is one of the better platforms that have the integrations already. Even though we're not in the App Store, most of the agencies will know how to find us. And yeah, if you want to take a look, well, I know you on the other side of this podcast, because Pancha knows the page. So you want to go there is Shopify, Convert.com/Shopify, and you can see what we are doing now. And if we develop something new, we'll also make sure we'll announce it there.
Well, there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did. And I have more good news for you. First of all, remember that if you want to dive really, really deep into these topics, you want to learn more about conversion rate optimization, you can go visit Convert.com. We have tons of resources in videos, articles, blogs. We post almost every day. And we even have an exclusive area for Shopify. So if you go to Convert.com/Shopify, you're going to see specific tools that we are developing for Shopify. And also in the blog, you will find specific area of articles and blog posts that are targeted at Shopify users. And the other good news is that the next episode is going to be a good one. We're going to talk about the problem, and I make this sound the problem because it's the big problem that every merchant is facing today. Attribution, iOS 14, the shortening of the capabilities of retargeting, the lesser events we can use to target people, everything that is going on after iOS 14, that you're gonna learn more, that it's not only about iOS 14. It's a lot more. There's more reasons behind it. There's more information around it. But in the next episode, we're gonna have this conversation with one of the leading experts, which is also Dennis, in this topic. We're gonna talk about privacy and why it's important, and why it matters, and how privacy precisely is moving all this. We're gonna also talk about how is it affecting currently merchants and online stores all around the world, and how is it continue to affect, and what is first party data and how we can use it, and why it's becoming more relevant. So believe me, we're going to have a great conversation. That's going to be in the next episode. So see you then. Bye bye.